Okay, I'm going to read the question one more time. Find the gradient of the line that is perpendicular to the line 3y equals 4x minus 5. How can we go about approaching this question? What can we do? Okay, so what we are going to do first is we are going to put the given line in the form y equals mx plus c to actually see its gradient. So what we want to do is we want to put it in this form. Y equals mx plus c. Because remember, m is your gradient. Okay, so we have 3y equals 4x minus 5. Now we want to get rid of this 3 because we want to get y alone. So we divide by 3. The 3 above the line and below the line will cancel out. So we are just left with y. Okay, now what about the rest? Remember, whatever we do on the one side, we have to do on the other side as well. So we have to divide this by 3 as well. And we have to divide this by 3 as well. So the new equation actually becomes 4 over 3x minus 5 over 3. Okay, so the gradient of this line is equal to 4 over 3. But the question is not asking for the gradient of this specific line. The question is asking for the gradient of the line that is perpendicular to this line. Now remember, with perpendicular lines, the product of the gradients will always be equal to negative 1. Okay, so now we have our first gradient that is equal to 4 over 3. Now we have to ask ourselves, with what do we have to multiply this gradient to get negative 1? With what do we have to multiply this gradient to get negative 1? Perpendicular lines have gradients that are negative reciprocals. So if the first gradient is equal to 4 over 3, then it means the second gradient will be equal to negative 3 over 4. Since 4 over 3 times negative 3 over 4 gives us negative 1. So the answer will be negative 3 over 4. That's going to be our final answer. Okay, let's have a look at question 11. A is the point 5, 7. So here they give us the coordinates for A. And then they tell us B is the point 9, negative 1. So this is the x coordinate, this is the y coordinate of A, and this is the x coordinate of B, and this is the y coordinate of B. And then they tell us to find the length AB. Find the length of AB. So how can we go about answering this question? Any ideas? How can we go about answering this question? Can we use the distance formula? What do you guys think? Can we use the distance formula? Okay, so we can use the distance formula, and the distance formula looks like this. So we can say that AB is equal to the square root of the difference in x coordinates, or the square of the difference in x coordinates plus the square of the difference in y coordinates. Okay, So let's substitute the known values into this formula over here. Now, I'll make this my first x and y value, and I'll make this my second x and y value. Okay, so x2 is equal to 9. x1 is equal to 5. All right. And now I'm moving on to the y values. So my second y value is equal to -1. My first y value is equal to 7, so I'm subtracting 7, and you have to remember to square it. All right, so 9 minus 5 is equal to 4. So we are busy simplifying. And -1 minus 7 is equal to -8. So this has to be a plus, and I have to find the square of -8. 4 times 4 is equal to 16. 4 squared is equal to 16. -8 times -8 is equal to positive 64. Remember, a negative and a negative is equal to a positive. Now, what is 16 plus 64? What is 16 plus 64? That's equal to 80. So AB is equal to the square root of 80. Okay, so we can further simplify it. You can break it up into, let's see what they've done here. 16 times 5, right? Okay, and then this can be rewritten as the square root of 16 times the square root of 5. Now, the square root of 16 is equal to 4, and the square root of 5, that's a third, so we just leave it as is. So it can be simplified to 4 square root 5. So that will be your final answer. All right. Let's have a look at this question. Complete the table of values for y equals 18 over x. So we have to calculate y by dividing 18 by each x value. Now remember, you have to keep the sign rules. A positive divided by a negative equals a negative, etc. Now let's have a look at the first one. All right, so remember our equation is, or our function is y equals 18 over x. Now, what is the first x value? It is equal to -8. So what is 18 divided by -8? What is 18 divided by -8? If you punch this into your calculator, what do you get? You will get -9/4. Okay, so that is the first missing value. If you want to write it as a decimal, it will be -2.25. You can write it as a decimal as well. All right, now we do exactly the same for -4 and -2 and 2 and 4 and 8. So let's try -4. Let's try -4. So I'm going to write y equals 18 divided by -4. What is 18 divided by -4? 18 divided by -4 is equal to -9/2. Okay, if you want to write it as a decimal, the answer will be -4.5. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. So here we have to divide 18 by -2. What is 18 divided by -2? This one is quite easy. It's going to be -9. What is 18 divided by 2? What will y be if x is equal to 2? That will be equal to 9. What will the y value be if the x value is equal to 4? Think about that. So I'm going to write this one out again. Y equals 18 divided by 4. So remember, previously we've divided by -4. This time we're dividing by 4. So the answer is 9 over 2, or if you want to write it as a decimal, it will be 4.5. Okay, now it's the same with 8. Previously we've divided by -8. Now we're only dividing by 8. 18 divided by 8 is equal to 9 over 4, or if you want to write it as a decimal, it will be 2.25. Okay. And that's how you can go about completing this table. I'm moving on to question 13. Let's have a look at question 13. All right. What's the coordinates of this point? What's the coordinate of this point? So your x value is -2. You can read it directly off the graph. And your y value is 4. So the coordinates is going to be -2, 4. Okay, I'm going to write it here as well. -2, 4. Okay, this is line L. Now they ask us to find the gradient of line L. How can we go about finding the gradient of this line? Any ideas, any suggestions? So you can use any other point. For example, you can use this point over here, or you can use point B. Now, what's the coordinates of point B? It is 6, 0. Okay, so to find the gradient, you have to divide the difference in the y values by the difference in the x values. Okay, so I'm going to do question B. I'm going to do it here next to the graph. Okay, so the gradient is equal to delta y over delta x. Remember, delta means change. So we're dividing the change in y values by the change in x values. All right, so I'm going to label my coordinates. I'm going to make this my first x coordinate, my first y coordinate, and I'm going to make this my second x coordinate and my second y coordinate. So I have x1, y1, x2, y2. You can number it the other way around as well. The answer will still be the same. Okay, so now I'm going to say y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. All right, what is my second y value? It's equal to 0. What is my first y value? It's equal to 4. Okay, what is my second x value? It's equal to 6. What is my first x value? It's equal to -2. A negative and a negative is equal to a positive. Okay, so it's -4 over 6 plus 2, which is 8, and I can now simplify this, and it will simplify to -1 over 2. So this is your final answer for question B. If you take a look at the graph, this makes sense. This gradient makes sense. Remember, when a gradient is positive, then your graph will go upwards. When the gradient is negative, then your graph will go downwards. So here we have a negative slope, and we can see that the graph is going downwards. So it makes sense for the slope to be -1 over 2, -1/2. Okay, let's have a look at what they're asking in question number 2. Now they're asking, Write down the equation of the line L in the form y equals mx plus c. Okay, so here we have line L. I'm just going to highlight it in pink. They want us to find the equation of this line. Okay, so we already know that the gradient of this line is equal to -1/2. Okay, so we already have the gradient, and we have the coordinates of two different points. Okay, so what's the coordinates of A again? It is -2 and 4. What's the coordinates of point B again? Let me quickly write that down. The coordinates of B is 6, 0. Okay, so this is the only information that I need to determine the equation of this line at this moment. So what I'll do is I'll start with this equation right here. Y minus y1 equals m multiplied by x minus x1. Now what you can do is you can choose any of the 2 points. You can choose point A or point B. So let's say we choose point A. You can choose point B as well, but let's say you chose point A. Then you substitute the y value, which in this case is 4, all right? So we have y minus 4. We know the value of m is equal to -1/2, and our x value is going to be -2. So it's minus, and then we add the x value, which is -2. Now remember, a negative and a negative equals a positive. So this becomes, I'm just going to write it closer up. I'm just going to write it over here. So then we have y minus 4 equals -1/2 x plus 2. Okay, so -1/2 times x, so we're expanding the brackets, is equal to -1/2x. And -1/2 plus 2 is equal to -1. Do you agree? -1/2 times 2 or times +2 is equal to -1. And we're also bringing this -4 over to the other side. So if it's a negative on the one side of the equal sign, it will become a positive on the other side of the equal sign. -1 plus 4 is equal to +3. So the final equation of this line will then be y equals -1/2x plus 3. Okay, let's have a look at C. Draw a line that is perpendicular to L and passes through point A. Okay, draw a line that is perpendicular to L and passes through point A. So we can draw any line here now, but one thing that we must remember is when two lines are perpendicular, it means that there must be a 90-degree angle. Okay, there must be a 90-degree angle. So that means this angle over here must be a 90-degree angle. And also remember, when two lines are perpendicular, it means that their gradients, the product of their gradients, must be equal to -1. All right. Then they tell us this line crosses the x-axis at point C. Mark C on the grid and write down the coordinates of point C. Okay, so let's go back. So if you take a protractor and you make sure that that's a 90-degree angle, then it will cross the x-axis here at point C, and the coordinates of C is -4, 0. Okay, so the answer over here will be -4, 0.